And tonight I'm privileged. It's our good friend. A lot of people know Joanie. She's been with us for many years as our private chef. But we're missing her. She's going to Colorado. But we got lucky. She flew in for a special event, and she's with us for this nice cooking class. And big hand of applause for all that good work you've done over the years. And tonight, it's a different format, but you'll enjoy it. Sometimes we used to have like an appetizer, first course, main course. This time, it's all appetizer, things that you could do during the holiday season, which is important, I think. Sometimes we don't have time for grandiose preparation. So have a good time. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm very, very happy to be here. You have a couple things on your table already. There's a few little surprises and bonuses tonight that were not on the menu. So, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get these caramelized onions started because I'm showing you a little bit faster way to do them. So the first thing is you want to cut your onions pole to pole. It makes a difference in their flavor. They're not quite as harsh. So I did most of them, but what I would do, I've already packed my knives. I have no idea how sharp this is. There we go. Yeah. I always have a trash bowl when I'm working. Fortunately, where I've moved to, we compost, and I actually am composting, but they make it very easy. But even before I moved there, when I lived here, I always had a trash bowl, because then it's right there. I'm not walking back and forth to the garbage can, and I get enough steps in. I was out here on Monday. I did 21,000 steps. That didn't count the 5 miles I did in the morning, so here I am, pole to pole, cutting through as thin as I can. If you have a mandolin and want to do a mandolin, you can do that. I did not sharpen this knife, so I don't trust it, so that's as far as I'm going. But I will throw it in here. And then what I'm going to do, if I can still do it, yay. I'm going to put it in here fairly high. Okay. There's a couple tablespoons of vegetable oil in there. You guys have the recipes to everything. I know we have some nut people out there. When we get to the spiced carrots, the recipe calls for peanut oil. I used vegetable oil. You can pay me later. So I'm throwing about a half a teaspoon of salt in there, and probably about 3/4 of a cup of water. What? You're putting water in the onions that you want to caramelize? I'm going to spread them out. Okay, throw that, and then cover them. And I want it kind of high, and they're going to cook for probably 10 minutes till most of the water evaporates, and then we'll continue with that. So while that's doing that thing, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the stuff that's on your table. The marinated olives, it says it's part of the first course. I made too many. So it was just easier to put bowls of them on your table. Okay. And there's 3 kinds of olives in there. They've been marinating, God, I did them the day I got here for epilepsy, so they've been 3 weeks marinating. They're Castelvano, Spanish Black, and Kalamata. And you have the recipe, okay, in there. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, your tidbits. Those little, I call them a bar snack, those little baby oyster crackers. I know them as tidbits. I had a client that I used to do all her milestones in her house, and also she did a Kentucky Derby party every year, and this woman threw a party, I'm just telling you. But she's the one who introduced me to tidbits, is what she called them. Most of you probably know them with the oyster crackers using the ranch dressing powdered mix. Well, I ran with it in a little different direction. First of all, the crackers themselves have come from Colorado, because when I was here last time, I could not find the minis here. And I buy them at City Market, which is a Kroger property. Couldn't even get them shipped here. So I bought them out there and wrapped them in bubble wrap and put them in my suitcase and checked it and made them here when I got here. And the recipe for that is, okay, it's about a bag of oyster crackers. And I know you're only going to be able to get the big ones, and that's okay. They're still good. I like little things. I like little cookies. I may eat as many cookies that equate to a big one, but I like them smaller. So it's a cup of vegetable oil, 6 tablespoons of the spice mix of your choice. You can do any spice mix you want. Okay? I toss them in a bowl, put them in a Ziploc bag, leave them overnight out on the counter, and then I put them in a 250-degree oven for about 15 minutes. That's it. They keep for weeks. Weeks and weeks and weeks. The other thing I do with these guys, I put them in my Caesar salad. Yes, that's worth the price of admission right there. Because the bread is too hard. The croutons are too hard. And these will hold up in the dressing, and they taste better, I think. They're much more flavorful. In my house, I make them spicy, but I kind of like this. This was a mixture of a garlic and chive dry mix that was salt-free. Some of you, if you know these also with like the Old Bay. I like that, but it's too salty for and I like salt, but that's a little too salty for my palate. So, but you can just do 6 tablespoons to 1 cup of oil to 1 bag of oyster crackers, and whatever seasoning mix you like. Make your own or buy it in the store, whatever works for you. And then what else is, the sweet nuts. The recipe for that is, first of all, every nut that comes in my front door gets toasted before they get put away in the oven. I do 325-degree oven until you can smell them. Then I cool them off, put them, usually because all of them come now in bags that reseal, put them back in the bag that they came in and put them in my freezer. Not the fridge. They'll keep longer. All right? And then the recipe for the spiced nuts is 1 egg white. This is per pound of nuts. 1 egg white, 1 tablespoon of water, and you mix that together with your nuts. Half a cup of sugar, and whatever seasonings you want. I did cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves for this one, and salt, and mixed all that together, and then spread them out on a cookie sheet, 250 for about an hour. They get hard, that sugar firms up. I think they're delicious. And then I also, again, I like spice. Sometimes I'll throw in some cayenne and ginger, some of the, to give it a little kick. Let's take a look and see how my onions are doing here. We're close, not quite. So these are going to take about 15 to 20 minutes total, as opposed to 45 minutes if you caramelize onions the traditional way. Traditional way, you would not have the lid on, you wouldn't have it as on high of a heat, you wouldn't have added the water, and you would be probably about every 2 minutes stirring them. I don't want to spend that much time with them. I have other things I want to do. Oh. All right, let's give these guys a little checky here. What am I doing? Ooh, we're close. Whew. Now I can't see. Okay, I'm going to take that off. I'm going to add a little more sugar, a little more salt. I also love black pepper. I grind my own black pepper. I grind all my spices, actually. Even down to my cinnamon sticks now. I grind those. Okay. And then yes. I throw them in. I do all my spice. The question is, what do I use to grind my cinnamon sticks? I grind all my spices in a Krupp's coffee grinder. So And now this is getting about 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. It helps to break down the onions faster, that's why. All right. You can see all that water's evaporated. I added the water to start to soften the onions faster. I forgot to mention that earlier. Okay. Correct. Correct. And you could wait till the very end also to add the baking soda if you mix it with a little bit of water, just at the very end. Depends on how much texture you want in them. So I'm kind of smushing these down, trying to get them in one layer. And I'm going to leave those alone. So while they're doing that, I'm going to show you how I make the bacon crack, which is part of the next course. I did some of them up ahead. What I do, I've got club crackers. I took my bacon and I cut it in half. Okay? I did Pam this, and normally these sit on, I put them on a rack. Like my cookie cooling rack would sit in this, and I would Pam that also. I've already packed that away as well. And we don't have any here. So just pretend they're up on a rack, about that tall. So I take the grated Parm. Okay. I have a little squirty pastry thing that I normally have this jam in. That's a little excessive, just so you know. I would normally also have a smaller spoon, but that's okay. It'll still be delicious. You're not going to be eating these tonight anyhow. They take 2 hours. And then that's red raspberry, but I normally do, I like a spicy jam, so I would do a spicy jam in that. But I like heat. So it all depends on who you're making them for. But even I make these for events. I still put the spicy jam in there because there's not that much. And then the bacon just gets wrapped around. Good. Okay. And usually being that they're not up on a rack, I was able to fit more on this sheet. I can usually fit 34 on a half sheet pan. I only have half sheet and quarter sheet pans in my house. I don't have any of those other kind of cookie sheets. They take up too much room. Ooh, yeah, we need to turn you down. Huh. There we go. Now we're getting some color. There we go. I think those look pretty good. We're getting there. Okay. So I'm going to turn those quite a bit down for right now. They're almost done. They'll be done while you guys are getting served and eating your first course. Questions? You must have some. Yes. No, go ahead. Yeah, it's like 250. Yeah. Yeah, 250 for 2 hours. And it really helps to have them up on a rack. Spray your rack, because it's a pain in the rear end to clean that rack, even after you spray it. As soon as the water pretty much evaporated, the question was, I kept the lid off about halfway through on the onions. As soon as that water, it pretty much all evaporated, the lid came off and it stayed off. And that's when I added a little more salt. You can add the baking soda then, or you could add it at the very end. And I clearly didn't turn it down enough, but you do turn it down a little bit. It depends on your onions. I think I did, because I didn't do as many onions as like a recipe would call for. If I was really making this for my house, I probably would have had 2 to 3 pounds of onions and a little bigger skillet, because if I'm going to go through the trouble to make them, I want to have them. And they'll keep for quite a while in your fridge. So if I was, for this one, I think I did not even a half a cup. But if I was doing a couple pounds of onions sliced, I still probably would have done like 3/4 to 1 cup. It's just enough because with the lid, they're steaming. And you're doing it just to soften the onion is the reason behind the water, because it moves the process along faster. It was about 1/8 to 1/4 of a teaspoon. Wasn't much. They smell pretty good. If you're so inclined, you could have added a little sugar to this. Again, just a pinch, you know, like a 1/4 teaspoon. But I think those guys are done. Now, the reason I showed this, which course is that one? The third course, you're getting caramelized onion and Gruyere pinwheels. If I was making the pinwheels, I would let these cool and I would chop them up in my food processor because it makes them easier to spread on the puff pastry. And when you go to slice it and eat it, you're not with an onion hanging down your chin. Yes?
2 questions. One, when you made it your shortcut way with the water, did
Yeah.
you add oil to the pan?
Yes, there was 2 tablespoons of oil in the pan before I put the onions in, and just a vegetable oil, just a vegetable.
How much salt? You're talking about how many onions? I've never salted caramelized onions before.
Okay, the question was how much salt? Probably a half. For this amount, I did about a half a teaspoon. If I was doing the normal amount, I'd probably a teaspoon. I'd probably put a teaspoon. And let me back this all up with, the only salt I use is Diamond Kosher. I don't even have table salt in my house. All right, I use Diamond Kosher salt, and Malden sea salt is a finishing salt when I want something else. Why, Joan? Because Diamond Kosher, other than I like it, it's half the sodium of table salt. You can't buy Diamond Kosher salt in the grocery stores here that I've seen. So you can get Morton, that's 3/4 of the sodium. So you would adjust your recipe accordingly to that. Did I answer everything? Okay. I'm going to help plate, but feel free to yell out questions. I'm going to mute myself, but if somebody has a question, I'll respond. Okay? I'm not my husband that you're talking to the wall. So the coriander citrus shrimp, I think they're delicious, don't you? And they're a nice change from shrimp cocktail, plus they're not drippy. And then the sweet potato chorizo balls. I got that recipe from something else that they were really dry. So I heavily modified the recipe. This is my modified recipe that I thought worked. And I will tell you, I have tried them using the chorizo seitan. For those of you that would want a vegetarian version of this. And they're good. You just need to add a little more fat to the batter. Because with using the seitan, you're not getting the fat that you get from the chorizo when you cook the chorizo. Chorizo goes in raw. It gets cooked in the ball when you bake them. So I didn't mention those. And I roast the sweet potatoes. I wrap them in foil, because you know how sweet potatoes like to share their liquid all over your oven and racks. So I wrap them in foil just because it contains all of that, and because I hate cleaning. So, any questions? We're good? Okay. We're going to start talking about the next course. The Oriental spiced carrots, I think I mentioned earlier, but maybe everybody didn't hear. The recipe calls for peanut oil. I knew we had some nut-sensitive people in the room tonight, so I made it with vegetable oil. Okay, so, and in all honesty, I couldn't tell the difference. It says on the recipe to blanch the carrots. I microwaved them. Hey, I'm bringing back the microwave, and I will tell you, Michael Voltaggio is following in my footsteps. I don't know if any of you watched Bobby Flay's Triple Threat. I've been using the microwave out here. I can't tell you how many years Diane's been giving me a hard time for using the microwave. And I had one bad week a couple years ago where I went through 3 of them. They all just died on me. My own in my house and 2 of them out here. So, but I cook a lot of vegetables in the microwave. And what I did with those, I bought the bags of baby carrots. And I put them in a Pyrex, like an 11 by 7 size Pyrex. Covered them in film. There's usually enough water in the bag when I dumped the bag in there. But if there wasn't any, I would have thrown a little bit more water in there. I sprinkled a little salt, covered it in film. And I take the circular thing out, the thing that makes it go around and around. Take that out on an aside. You're supposed to put, when you're using the circular thing, you're supposed to put your stuff on the edge, not in the middle. Yes. I just learned that a couple months ago myself. But yeah, you're supposed to put it on the edge because it's moving around because the microwaves are coming from all over the place. So you should put your stuff on the edge. Don't put your plate in the middle. My microwave in my house is really small. It has to go in the middle. But if I'm doing something like this with the veggies, I take the glass plate out. I cover my Pyrex with film, and I hit it for 4 minutes to start. And typically it needs a little more. And I cook them till tender. You'll see tonight when you eat them. They're crisp tender, but they're definitely not raw. Okay? And what I did is I made sure I had my marinade ready. So when I threw them in my container, I dumped the marinade on them. And I will tell you, I made that marinade in the Vitamix and killed it. And I made it early in the day, and I let everything just sit there and marry. And then when it was time for me to throw everything into the container that I was going to actually marinate the carrots in, I put it through a strainer. Because I don't care how much you pulverize the ginger, you're not getting it completely smooth. But it had imparted its flavor into the liquid so that it just made it easier for service. That's why I did that. And I served these at a cocktail party that I did Thursday night, and I put them in a bowl, and I had the forky toothpicks so people didn't have to put their fingers on them. You're not getting those tonight because you kept forks and knives. So, but if you didn't have forks and knives, I have those little forky picks that I get. In between courses, I have them. No, I put them in the car. But they're plastic things. I get them off of Amazon. Yeah, I've seen them at Publix, but they only like $24 to the pack. I get them by the 300 because you'll use them. They don't go bad. So that's what I did with those Oriental spiced carrots. That's different from what the recipe says. The crab chili and lime and phyllo tartlets. Actually, I'm going to skip over those and talk about the Asian turkey meatballs first. That's pretty straightforward. I do my own fresh breadcrumbs. I do all my own breadcrumbs. Bread doesn't get thrown out in my house. If we get to I like the ends. My mother told me it made my hair curly. Anybody else's mother tell them that? Crust made your hair curly? Yeah, thank you. I'm not the only one. But I like the crust. My husband does not. He doesn't like the ends of the bread and all that stuff. So anything like that gets saved in my house. If I cut off the crust, let's say I'm making something that it requires no crusts, finger sandwiches or something like that. All of that stuff goes in a Ziploc and goes in my freezer. And then when whether I need fresh or toasted breadcrumbs, I take them out of my freezer, pulse them in my food processor. If I need toasted, I just throw whatever it is on a sheet pan and toast them, let them cool, and then make my dry breadcrumbs that way. And if not, if it's fresh, I just take that fresh bread defrosted and pulse it. And let's say, like this week, I needed a bunch of it for a bunch of different things. I just bought a loaf of Pepperidge Farm white bread and just threw like 6 slices in the food processor and pulsed it, and that's my fresh breadcrumbs. So, and it's easy, it's quick, and whatever's left lives in the freezer. Stays in a Ziploc in the freezer. So that one is pretty straightforward. Fish sauce, the only fish sauce I use is Red Boat fish sauce. And I think all the stores carry it now. It used to be, I had to get it at the Oriental Market over the bridge, over the Roosevelt Bridge. But I know Fresh Market carries it. I think even Publix has it now. So I think that's it. All right, let's talk about the tartlets. Bonus time. I know I had put in there phyllo tartlets. I can't stand those things in the freezer. So what you're getting tonight, first of all, you're getting 3 different tartlets. And I'll show you what I do. The crab chili and lime are going in wonton cups. And how I made those, you know, you'd never know I was a math and aced geometry, but these are supposed to be circles. I buy the package of wonton wrappers in the produce section of the grocery store, and I just cut them, okay? And then I take them, and for these, I typically use just vegetable oil. And I'll do a whole pile of them. Okay. And then I have, I'm a big fan of the Williams-Sonoma Gold Touch pans. And they put them on sale quite often throughout the year for like 20-25% off. Wait for the sale because they're expensive. And then I just put them in there. Some of them will rip. Like that one. You have extras, so you just rip, take them out. And I try to push them against the sides and push them down, but you'll see when you get yours, I'm not always very successful with that. It just makes them a little harder to fill. So this, and then you will bake them until they just start to turn brown. Don't walk away because the next thing you know, they're burnt. The wontons. Now, you're also getting brie and raspberry quesadillas. So I want to show you various forms of tartlets. Now, typically with these, because I've done these with just vegetable oil, and I find them very dry and tasteless, so I mix ghee and oil, and I put salt in it. Now, this time around, I was actually able to find salted ghee. And so I did a mixture of ghee, and you could probably do all ghee on these flour tortillas. And these I use a cutter, circle cutter. And you want the cutter, see how much bigger that is than the top of the circle of my tart pan? That's the size cutter you want to use, okay? Because I'll show you why. And I do both sides of these, and the same thing, I'll do a whole pile of them before I start throwing everybody in the pan. And I go heavy because then I can just put the next one on top of it, and then both sides are done. And then you just take this and push them down and bake those off. These are a little more forgiving. They take a little longer. These guys will burn. I'm telling you, you turn around and they're burnt. But if you take them out too soon, then the bottoms aren't crisp. So there can be a little bit of a PIA. And then that's what I do. That's how I make the tartlets. And and I put them in Ziplocs, and they keep for days and days and days. Okay, even with the ghee. In case you haven't noticed, you can keep your ghee at room temperature. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. Okay. Then the other thing, as the crab tartlets are done, those can go on as well. And then there's other 2 things are hot. The last thing that's going in a tartlet is, what did I do? I bought the croustades. You'll see what they look like. I get them at, well, you can usually get them at Fresh Market. I didn't want to take the chance of them not having enough, so I ordered them on Amazon and had them shipped. But you have to get like 6 to the box, and there's 24 in a pack. So most of you don't need 150 tartlets. I did. I actually needed 300, so I bought 2 boxes. But I was introduced to those many years ago with the client that I attribute to teaching me how to cook because I had no budget. Anything she wanted, we got. I had no budget. And she introduced them to me because we would put caviar and sour cream in them. And back then it was Stuart Fine Foods that had them. And fortunately, Fresh Market continues to carry them. They're in the cracker aisle. Remind me when in the break I may be able to find one of the boxes I threw out so I could show you what the box looks like. But it's Siljan, S-I-L-J-A-N, and there's 24 of them to the pack. And those I filled with mac and cheese. And they're going to get a little caramelized onion jam on top. Okay, and if you want super easy, effortless, you can buy the mac and cheese. I mean, you're going to put jam on top of it. How bad can it be? You buy the croustades, and I cook them. I heat them up that way, and then you'll see me putting the caramelized onion jam on top right before service. The question is, do I cook these and freeze them in packages? No, I bake them and put them in Ziplocs, and they can just stay at room temperature for at least a week. Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't freeze them again. Of course, now that I'm leaving. Yes.
The tortillas that you make them with ghee, salt, and what else?
Oil. But you could also do them with just ghee. I probably would do them with just ghee.
Oh.
Yeah, because the butter is, come on. And for those of you that don't know what ghee is, it's melted butter with the milk solids removed. It's almost like lobster butter. Same thing, lobster butter. It's just had the milk, it's been separated from the milk solids. So it keeps, and it's shelf stable. So it's a wonderful product. And it's not that expensive. Any more? All right, I'm going to go help plate. If you have any questions, just yell and I'll turn my mic back on. Look at the Portobello Boursin tartlets right now as if this was a cocktail party. And you're getting one. And I'll talk about the Portobello Boursin tartlets while they're passing that. And I know they're going to be, and I know they've picked your plates up. That's a cream cheese pastry that makes those, which is basically, 8 ounces of butter, 8 ounces of cream cheese, 2 cups of flour, and a half a teaspoon of salt in the mixer. And then I use a cookie scoop to portion, to put in my mini quiche pans, press them out, and then I marinate the portobello mushrooms in a balsamic vinaigrette. You can buy it. Grill them, chop them up, and it's the garlic and herb Boursin cheese that gets put on top, and then the whole thing gets baked till they get brown. So I guess I'll go ahead and start talking about the next course. Hopefully I'll remember to get everything on the plate. You'll get the Asian turkey meatballs in the next course. The caramelized onion and Gruyere pinwheels. You saw the caramelized onions earlier. I would have pulsed those in the food processor after they cooled off and then spread them on puff pastry that I lightly rolled out. And I would have put the caramelized onion mixture down first, and then I would have shredded some Gruyere and put that on top, pat it down, and then roll the pinwheels up, roll the puff pastry up, put the whole thing back on a cookie sheet into the fridge to get them nice and cold, and then slice them with my bread slicer. And then I put them on a cookie sheet, single layer, to freeze them. because puff pastry always does better baked from frozen. Okay? And once I freeze them, they went into Ziploc bags and lived in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. So you can make these, they don't take up a lot of space. I tried to make a lot of this menu that if you wanted to make ahead and freeze, you could. So I tried, it's about 75% of the menu is make ahead and freeze. And I thought of this last year after I did my demo dinner, right after, because we did it in November last year as well. And right afterwards I went, I should have done something with appetizers for the holidays. So that's when all of this came together with me being asked to come back for a couple of events. I said, well, let's just do an all appetizer menu. So if you leave here hungry, it's your own dang fault. Just saying. So that's the caramelized onion. The boursin and strawberry with crostini. You can, and this is another one of those that idiot-proof. You can get it from the grocery store if you don't feel like making it. It's the black pepper boursin cheese, except where I moved to, they have the garlic and herb, they have the shallot and chive. They do not have black pepper. So I've had to learn to make my own. And so I've been making my own, and tonight you'll have my homemade black pepper boursin cheese. And it's extremely complicated. Whipped cream cheese, bought in the container, fresh ground black pepper. Mix it together. Now, other things, and then I did it with the strawberry jam, but my first introduction to the black pepper boursin and jam was one of my yoga students taught me the black pepper boursin with blueberry jam. And she would just buy the round of the black pepper boursin and spoon blueberry jam on top of it and serve it with crackers. And when I do crackers, I like the Kame, K-A-M-E, rice crackers, because they're pretty benign. You taste what you're eating, not the cracker. So that is one of my favorite crackers to have. I opted to do, because strawberry and black pepper is a beautiful marriage. And the crostinis, I made a trip to Breads by Johnny on Friday and spent a small fortune. It's in the freezer in the house I'm staying in, and I have an empty roller bag waiting for everything to go in it in the morning before I load the car up and go to the airport. But I got his Ariosa and made the crostinis out of his Ariosa, because his breads are amazing. But I love his Ariosas, so that's what's in that. And then the beef tenderloin roll-ups. Did I give you the recipe for the tenderloin? Okay. So the tenderloin, pretty much any meat that comes into my house, I take it, I season it with salt, heavily season it with salt, put it on a rack, on a sheet pan, and leave it in the fridge for 24 hours exposed. I do not cover it with film. And I'm talking pretty much every meat, chicken, beef, all of that gets, and for 24 hours if you can. An hour is better than none, okay? And don't believe that you can take your meat out an hour ahead and you're bringing it to room temperature. It doesn't work that way. It's all day. Don't worry about it. You're cooking your meat from refrigerator temperature. And experiment the next time. If you're cooking 2 steaks, leave one in the fridge, pull one out and put it on the counter for an hour and take its temperature. Guarantee it's only about 5 degrees warmer than it was when you took it out of the fridge. It's a waste of time. I don't do that. I take my meat out and cook right from the fridge. Okay. So the tenderloin, so then if it's tenderloin, I've seasoned it and then sit it overnight, in the fridge, exposed on a rack. I just leave it on that rack. I pammed the rack before I put the meat on it, because again, I hate to clean. And it went into a 200 to 250 degree oven, and you just got to keep checking the temperature. Thermapen is the best instant read thermometer on the planet, and they put them on sale all the time. But you can get them on sale for like $80, and it's worth it. Thermapen, Thermapen. It is truly instant read. And I think it's the M420. It looks like a wine key. But no matter which way you put it, if it's upside down, it'll flip so you can read it. The digital readout will flip so you can read it. I've had mine for years, and I use it, and I have yet to have to replace the battery. So they last a long time. So then, after I cook the tenderloin, I chill it down. And there's no such thing as a butcher where I live now. So I have given new meaning to the word butcher because I've tried slicing this thin on my own. Can't do it. Can't do it. Now, I haven't tried almost freezing it after I've cooked it. I might be able to. So I took advantage of my presence here, and I use the butcher shop that's, in the Publix Plaza that I was talking about. He's, in US 1 in Colorado. And I cook it, and I bring it to him, and he slices it for me. And I'm going to unroll one. And I cook it to about 130 to get it medium rare. And when you're cooking that low, there's no carryover and you don't need to rest. Same thing for your steaks. I cook my steaks, I do reverse sear on my steaks. Cook it low and slow like that, but a steak will only take about an hour or so to your desired temperature. Pull it out, and then you hit it either on the grill or in a skillet, and it doesn't have to rest. You can just go ahead and eat it because it's even temperature throughout. It's cooked low and slow. So then I just roll this sucker up. And then if I was a cocktail party, I'd put that little forky thing on there. I'll give you the horseradish cream here in a moment. There you go. This stuff will keep for days. Why, Joan? Because mascarpone. That's also worth the price of admission. I mix, did I give you the recipe for the horseradish cream? Did I put mascarpone in there? And I mix it with the mayonnaise and the squeezed dry prepared horseradish, correct? A little salt and a pinch of sugar. Oh, I might have done just the mascarpone instead. But in this case, tonight, you're getting it's about a quarter cup of mayonnaise. And I whisked together the mayonnaise and the mascarpone and the sugar and the salt. I whipped the cream to almost completely done. You never want to whip your cream to completely done. Finish it with the whisk at the end. And then folded that mascarpone into it. I made this 2 days ago. About a quarter to a half cup. I mean, it's not that precise. Depends on how much cream you're whipping. But look at that. I made that 2 days ago. It holds. So you don't have to be afraid of it. I love it because you can make it ahead. You're not having to make it at the last minute or in the morning. You can make it in the morning, but it's not going to fall apart and deflate by service, all that kind of stuff. So let me finish plating and see what else I can forget. And specifically, I'm going to do the toffee bark in front of you. So I started, I've got the brown sugar and the butter in here, and I'm just trying to get it to incorporate with each other. I melted it. And once I get it homogeneous, what I did was I put down foil, I pammed it, and a boatload of saltine crackers. And I don't know if you can see, this is starting to come together here. And the only reason why I'm talking about it now, because once I get this cooked and on there, it's got to go in the oven for 7 minutes. So that's why I want to go ahead and talk to you, and they'll probably start clearing you. What'd you think of my homemade black pepper boursin? It's way cheaper than buying the boursin, I'm telling you. So it was actually not a bad thing that I couldn't find any up there. For those of you that don't know, in May I moved to Dillon, Colorado. So I live at 9,000 feet, third floor of a walk-up, never going to get easy. But it's nothing for me to get on my bike and do 2,000 feet of climbing, where it was all you could do to get me to go up a bridge. I tease, I used to ride the bridges every Saturday. But I can ride from Denver to Glenwood Springs, and I'm a road biker, not a mountain biker, and never be next to a car. So I could ride my bike and never be next to a car. And I ski. I went to college in Durango, and I grew up in Northwest Jersey, so, I like winter. Now, we'll have a conversation in February. We may not feel the same way, but, yeah. Yeah, I'm not used to having to work for work, so trying to get, myself established out there is hard because nobody knows me. Here at Hooterville, everybody knows me. Even half the people in here that may have never seen me before probably heard of me. All right, so this is all homogenized, so I'm going to turn this up a little bit, and I want to bring it to a boil. This is a very complicated recipe. You could also make this with matzah. It's just as good.
Can we also just have you ship it to us?
Absolutely. The question was, can I have you ship it to me? And it's absolutely. All right, so it's just starting to simmer around the edges. So, yeah, come on. All right, I'm going to look at my watch. I'm going to give it 3 minutes at a boil. Offset spatula will help me once I get there. So, yeah. I did get on Copper Mountain. I got on as a volunteer. If you volunteer 7 days, you get a free season pass. So I just signed up for 7 events to work throughout the season. I'll work more because for every shift over, you get another day pass. So and I did 2 events prior to ski season, and they let us know it didn't count towards our 7 days, but for every shift we got a day pass. So my husband already has 2 day passes. So that's for Copper Mountain. And then we did what's called epic passes because almost everything Vail owns. And I live 3 miles from Keystone, 5 miles from A Basin, and 9 miles from Loveland. Not skied Loveland, and it's very exposed. I think it's going to be kind of windy and cold, so we'll see. And then about 8 miles from Breckenridge. And so the Epic Local was unlimited at Keystone, basically unlimited at Breckenridge. I can't ski the actual major holidays, which I'm not going to ski those days anyhow. It's too crowded.
Did you have to buy an off-season to get it affordable?
Ours were, I think we paid $539 for that, and for the unlimited at Keystone, and then basically, to me, it's unlimited at Breckenridge because I'm not going to ski on President's Day, Christmas Day, any of those days anyhow. So to me, it was unlimited. We could have had, if we thought we'd ski Vail and Breck at all, just even a couple of days, it would have been like another $100, but I don't see me going there. For those of you who've been out there, I have ridden my bike over Vail Pass. Yeah. I had to get off twice. There's 2 parts that are 15% grade, and I don't have that low of a granny gear, so I did have to get off and walk. All right, so we've been 3 minutes. Ooh, that sucker's hot. Here we go. So I'm going to pour this over. And then just kind of spread it to the edges. I don't get too crazy about this because this will kind of seek its own level anyhow in the oven. All right. I will be right back. I'm just going to go throw this in the oven. I have the oven set at 400. and it's going to go for 7 minutes. While we're waiting for the other thing to cook, let's talk about the other stuff. The apple pie bars, you have the recipe for those. I will say, I pulled them out because I made them ahead and froze them, and they do normally very well. But they've been sitting out for a few hours, and I will have to say the ones in the middle are a little soggy. They're still going to be delicious, but you're not going to be able to pick them up. You're going to need your fork to eat those, but they're still very good. And what else? The ginger cookies are to die for. To die for. They are going to replace any other ginger cookie in your repertoire. They are so good. You saw me making the toffee bark. My peppermint bark, way better than Williams-Sonoma. Just saying. Williams-Sonoma's too thick. That's what I don't like about it. It's too thick. And I spread mine very thin. And you'll see. Sometimes the layers separate, and I did have a little separation issue with this batch. The key is, I think I put in there, you don't want to refrigerate it in between the layers. And actually, I think next time I won't even wait for it to completely set before I put on, like I do white chocolate on the bottom, the flavored milk, dark chocolate in the middle, and then white chocolate on top, and then I put the peppermint dust on top of that. The flavor does not come from the crushed up peppermints. The flavor comes from the peppermint extract in your melted dark chocolate. And be careful. You don't want it to taste like toothpaste, because I've gone too far with that. So, and especially if there's not enough and you keep adding, walk away from it for half an hour, because that's when you end up with toothpaste. So, and again, it's you melt it, temper it, and a real thin layer. I read someplace that if you could try scoring the layer below to see if maybe that'll adhere a little better. I have not tried that. I think we managed to give you guys all pieces that are not separated. And I'm not one for chips. I normally, like when I make chocolate chip cookies, I buy bar chocolate and chop it up. I wanted the chips for the bark because there's an emulsifier in them that helps keep it solid, and I want that feature in my bark. I don't want it in my cookies or in my other baked goods, but I do want it in the bark, because my feeling is it's going to solidify better and hopefully adhere to one another better. Doesn't always work that way, though. I'll be right back. I'm going to go pull the stuff out of the oven. So it's a hot mess. I'm going to try and separate everybody as best I can, but I'm not going to make myself crazy about it either. Now, if I had Malden sea salt, I'd be sprinkling that on top, but as soon as I get everybody separated, I'm going to hit it with my Diamond Kosher. And this stuff hides a multitude of sins, so don't make yourself crazy with this. All righty. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to let that sit for a minute or so, just to get a little more solid before I add the chocolate chips on top. So I'm just waiting for this to harden a little bit so it's not a soupy mess when I throw the chocolate chips in there. Because it's lower in sodium. Yeah, the question is why kosher salt? It's lower in sodium. And I prefer Diamond Kosher. It's half the sodium of table salt. But you can't find it in the stores around here, so I get it from Amazon, but you can use Morton kosher salt is what they have in the stores around here, and that's 3/4 the sodium. of table salt. I don't even have table salt in my house anymore. I had a jar that had like a quarter cup in it for years, and I never used it, so I finally pitched it because I just don't use it. I use the Diamond Kosher when I bake. Yeah, so it's just my preference. And then I use the Malden sea salt, the flaky Malden sea salt. That's a finishing salt. So I use that like to finish steaks, or I'll put it on top of my chocolate chip cookies, you know, that kind, because it stays crunchy and it has a little texture. So that's why it's a finishing salt as opposed to a baking salt. Yeah. I don't. I chop chocolate. The question is, what chocolate chips do I use? I do not. I buy bar chocolate and chop it by hand. I've bought the Trader Joe's chocolate bars. You know, the Pound Plus, and chop those. I'll buy the Ghirardelli 60% bars or the 72% bars. And if you're chopping chocolate, use your bread knife. Don't use your regular knife, use your bread knife. It'll be much more effective. Okay. So, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, I just don't use chips unless I'm melting them for some reason. Depends on what the application's going to be. So I just throw them, because you still want it hot. There we go. And we're going to just leave that for a minute or so. And it'll start to melt a little bit. And I have two sizes of offset spatulas. I have one that's a long one that you're supposed to use for cakes. I've never. And I've taken a couple of cooking classes out there in Breckenridge. There's Colorado Mountain Colleges out there all over the place. And the Breckenridge campus has a culinary program. And they have hands-on, limited it to, I took one class, there was 4 of us in it. But they limit most of them to 12, some of them just 6. Like the bread baking class, there was 6 of us in it. And so I've taken a couple of classes, and I did actually decorate my own cake. And it didn't look like a 2-year-old did it, it looked like a 4-year-old did it. But I did make a rose. So I don't write, though, on it. I can't even read my own grocery list in the grocery store, because computers have just made it even worse. The question is that fresh ginger in the ginger cookies? No. It's crystallized ginger and ginger powder are the gingers that are in there. Finely chopped crystallized ginger. And I'll tell you what I did. I threw it in the food processor with the sugar to really pulverize it and get it super fine. Because now if you like little chunks of crystallized ginger, then don't do that. I liked it a little more refined than that. That's my palate, though. Thank you. Yeah, to me, that is a game-changing cookie. And they were easy. They're really easy to make. All right, we're getting there. Not quite. We're close. Patience is not my virtue. So what do you think of that peppermint bark, huh? Those of you who've got, not everybody's been served yet. I shouldn't have asked. I should have waited. And I wouldn't recommend refrigerating the peppermint bark for a long period of time after you break it up. I find when it defrosts, sometimes it bleeds, the peppermint on it. And that's peppermint dust that I put on top, not crushed up candy canes. Buy the stuff. Don't sit there crushing up candy canes. And I get it online, but I've been able to find the stuff at Home Goods all the time, this time of year and through the holidays. Home Goods has the crushed up peppermint candies. Don't. It's a pain in the butt. We're getting there. Does anybody have any other questions for me? I'm here. No? You could also, instead of this toffee that I have, you could put sliced almonds on it. I've always liked it just plain. I'm not a nuts in my thing person. That's me. I'll put nuts in my chocolate chip cookies because then I won't eat them. It's just, I like nuts by themselves. I don't usually like them in my things. Okay, we're almost there. As soon as all the chips melt, then I'll sprinkle on the toffee. And I bought that online because I liked them because they were a little smaller than like the toffee chips that you buy in the grocery store. That was the main reason I got them online. Plus, where I live, you'd think we were still in the middle of a pandemic. The grocery store shelves, they just can't keep them stocked. And that was a 20-ounce bag of chocolate chips on this. And I had made this before, and it's a little more than probably what you need, but I don't know. I guess there's really no such thing as too much chocolate, right? Yeah, I'm pretty much done. I'm just waiting for this so I can throw the toffee on there. But yeah, I got nothing else for you unless you have some questions. There we go. And when you see chefs doing stuff from way up high, because it actually distributes better. It's not you're not trying to be fancy. Joanie, yes. I would just go a little longer. Yeah, the question was, I guess I had said 400 and the recipe says 350. I usually do 400 for 7 minutes. I think I copied that off of something. You know what else I remember too about that recipe? It's brown sugar. It's not just plain sugar, it's brown sugar. And it's equal parts butter and sugar. So it's like a cup of butter, a cup of sugar, this I used a cup and a half of each. And it's brown sugar. I apologize. I think I copied and pasted that recipe months ago when I gave Diane the menus. So, there you go. I thank you all for coming this evening.
I think you did a good job as usual. And I want to say thank you again for doing it. Maybe next year we'll bring her back here. We never know. So thanks for coming. And again, we got many more. You know the routine. There's plenty more on the website.